ready to get an advantage? Good, because it's now time to get back to the edge.
All right, 1:30 here in Las Vegas, tip of the strip, South Point Hotel and Casino. Matt Youmans and Sam Panayotovich, and a big slate in college basketball. And to tackle that, we bring in Bruce Marshall from the Gold Sheet. Bruce, it's Matt and Sam. How are you, sir?
Hey, Sam, pretty good.
Last time I had you on the show, you were picking Santa Clara, and they beat the doors off of. I can't remember who it was. It was a couple of weeks ago, and that was one of the games I wanted to touch on here because Santa Clara, West Coast Conference, Bruce, you love Coast. They're getting a big number against, is it Gonzaga tonight? 21 against the Zags. The game is at Santa Clara. How do you cap this one?
Yeah, this is an interesting dynamic here. Gonzaga really blew the doors off of Santa Clara a few weeks ago up in Spokane, 91-48. It's the only time, the St. Mary's game, Santa Clara had some problems, but it kind of reminds of last year when Gonzaga destroyed Santa Clara the first meeting by almost 50, and then kind of went through the motions the second time, won by 15 at the Levy Center. I think something similar might happen tonight. This is a better Santa Clara team this season. The best thing that happened to them was KJ Fagan, who was their leading returning scorer, broke his hand in November, and he's since transferred out. He'll be a grad transfer somewhere next year. But he had the ball in his hands too much last year, and some of the newcomers that Herb Sendek recruited, Trey Wirtz and Keyshawn Justice, the wings, have upped the athleticism quotient there, and Tajidi, the transfer guard from Southeast Missouri, has been a plus. Gonzaga, they're not always. It reminds me of the Portland game last week, and they were such a big favorite. They went through the motions. They do have a bigger challenge at BYU, or a game they're probably a little bit more concerned about coming up on Thursday night. This is too many points. Sendek's pretty solid, and they've been covering numbers pretty consistently, except against Gonzaga and St. Mary's. But at home, I think Santa Clara sticks within this 21 tonight.
All right, 21 points. The Broncos getting tonight against the Zags. Let's keep it in the West Coast Conference, Bruce. I think BYU's an interesting home dog tonight in Provo. Number was 2.5. Now you get 2 or 1.5 with the Cougars. Total 152.5. How do you see St. Mary's BYU?
Yeah, they might be. BYU has started to win some games here, although a little trouble with Santa Clara here. Didn't cover the number, but they handled Portland, which they should have done, and won at Pepperdine. That was probably their best win they've had in a while. What bothers me at BYU is sometimes it looks like Dave Rose is pulling teeth on his players to make them play defense. I mean, they had a recent stretch where they allowed 87 or more in 5 straight games. This team likes to get up and down the court and shoot, and they've got guys who can fire away. But it bothers me a bit that they take so many possessions off on the stop, and they can't wait to get back on the other end. By the way, TJ Hawes, the guard, looks about 35 years old.
Wait a minute, sure. Bruce. He looks like he's 55. I really think he looks like the oldest player in college basketball, and the kid is, a junior at BYU? I mean, he is bald, and he looks like he should be playing in a seniors league. But he's a pretty good player. He's a pretty good player.
I was being kind to him, saying 35. I think you're more right. But, what happens at BYU, sometimes these guys go on missions and then they come back and they're older, but he's a lot older. But St. Mary's is playing really well lately. I don't know that I'd want to go against them. I hear your concern here. I'm going to stay away from this one because St. Mary's has looked really, really good. They're hitting on all cylinders with this offense in recent games, and they're shooting the rock. They're shooting the ball so well. They destroyed BYU a couple weeks ago in Moraga. So I'm going to stay away from this, but I think you might have a point with BYU.
Well, if BYU is going to cover or win that game tonight, Wild's going to have a big game around the basket for the Cougars. How about UC Santa Barbara? Joe Pasternak doing a good job here, and the Gauchos are getting 1.5 points at Cal State Fullerton. Any thoughts on that Big West game?
Yeah, Matt, I think this might be one of the best plays of the night for Santa Barbara. I think this is the best team in the Big West. And Irvine, they got a good game against Irvine coming up on Saturday night. They'll get them up at the Thunderdome. But I think the Gauchos might get them. Really good job done by Pasternak. He's brought in a bunch of transfers this year. Davis from Alabama, Ramsey from Nevada, McLaughlin, Oregon State. They have really led this team. And Max Heidegger, who was their top returning scorer, he missed the first month and a half of the season. he's gotten back, but he's not. He's just starting to kind of get in the flow. He hasn't been shooting threes. He hit over 40% of his triples last year. He doesn't have that radar working yet, but it will at some point. But they've come a lot further than Fullerton has, which has been a major disappointment. The schedule is kind of tough for Fullerton. I thought they'd pick up the pace when they got back in the Big West, but they still don't have a third scoring option behind Allman and Ahmad. They're two pretty good guards, and they just haven't looked as good as Santa Barbara. And I can't get this number here, but Santa Barbara winning all these games. But they got 6 in a row. They're undefeated in the Pac in the Big West.
Right.
They'll win this game outright tonight at Titan Gym.
At Bruce A. Marshall on Twitter, Bruce Marshall, editor of the Gold Sheet. Bruce, let's talk a little Pac-12. Matt was saying Oregon, he wanted a better number. He was hoping maybe pick, maybe -1, but this number's 2.5 here against the Huskies. Washington's in first place in the Pac-12. They're 5 on note here. How do you cap this?
Yeah, I'm going to give Washington a look, although I'm a little concerned about this. Oregon did rise up after that last week, and they won that game at Arizona. They lost one at Arizona State, but that shows that they're capable of doing. Pritchard, when he hasn't been shooting the threes as nearly as well as he did last year, but if he gets that on track, Oregon could still be pretty tough here. Minus Bol, though, since he's out now, that might tip the scales in Washington's favor here. Washington really didn't have a matchup for him. But now, without the 7-2 guy in there, they might have a little bit more room to rumble inside. Noah Dickerson is very capable around the bucket. Norvell, this is not a bad team. And like you say, they're playing well. And defensively, they are doing a job here. They're, I think, about 61 points per game they're allowing. This Mike Hopkins defense is doing a really nice job. We had it in the Gold Sheet, 70-63 Washington, so we're going to take a lead here. I didn't make that a featured play tonight, but I think I can lean to the Huskies here, who are on a really nice run right now.
No sweat. I did not have a strong opinion. I was going to play Oregon if I could get them at pick 'em, but I don't think I'm going to play the Ducks laying points. Peyton Pritchard should be able to run a pretty good offense against Mike Hopkins' zone, but no real strong opinion on that game. How about a couple others in the Pac-12? I do like Arizona a little bit at USC. That's a pick 'em or Arizona -1. And Bruce, also Utah at Stanford tonight, and the Cardinal 2.5-point home favorites.
Tough games here. USC, I was about ready to give up on the Trojans, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere last weekend, they rose up and whipped UCLA pretty good.
Right.
UCLA we know has got some issues here, but we saw some of what they were thinking SC might look like earlier in the season. Now that was before some of these distractions. Some of the Tony Bland stuff has been lurking on the background, and the suspension of Porter. They haven't been able to get their lineup fully healthy, but they are at 100%. They could be a little bit scary here, and I'm still not sure, about Arizona out here on the road. I might lean a little bit to Arizona in that one, but we'll see. Utah is interesting here. I still don't think Stanford is all that good, although the Cardinal did come up and look good last weekend against Washington State. They have generally not put two good games this season. I think they really misread Travis, and I don't think Jared Haas was expecting Travis to transfer out as a grad transfer ending up at Kentucky. I really thought they believed they would have him this year, and they've got kind of a hole in the middle because Travis left them kind of in the lurch there. But they have not covered 2 games in a row or won 2 games in a row since well before Christmas. Might give Utah a look here tonight in Palo Alto.
I was looking at that, actually. The last 2 times that they won back-to-back games, Middle Tennessee and Portland State, Eastern Washington, and San Jose State. So there's a pattern here, Bruce. They don't beat – like you said, they haven't won back-to-back games since December 18th.
Yeah, they're an inconsistent offensive team, and their shooting blows hot and cold. And you saw it last weekend. They played well against Washington State after playing poorly at Washington. They cannot put 2 good games together. We'll see if they can break that pattern tonight, but I wouldn't bet on it.
A lot of good games tonight, Bruce. I love the Thursday night college basketball boards because you and I both love a lot of these West Coast games, even small conference games. I'm going to throw another one in the from the Pac-12 at you. UCLA, a 1.5-point favorite over Arizona State. And the Sun Devils have faded a little bit here in the past few weeks, but I'm not sure what to make of UCLA. 3-2 since Steve Alford got fired. I think this is a tough game to handicap, but it's a game I want to watch tonight. Did you pick a side here, Arizona State, UCLA?
Was tempted on Arizona State, could lean that way. We were tempted on the over, but just decided to back off UCLA for the moment here. I'm not sure that little boost they had after Murray Bartow took over for Alford and they won those 3 in a row, including that wild comeback at Oregon. But since then, I mean, it looked bad against Oregon State. The last half of the last 10 minutes of the Oregon State game and then the entire SC game last week, they really looked poor. Some of the same problems resurfaced that were there when Alford was there. Moses Brown is so unrefined, and he's so far. I mean, the fact that they were even talking about, Alcindor Jabbar comparisons for him is blasphemous. And this whole team, they don't like to play defense. Another one of these teams, and Bartow can only do so much. You're right, Arizona State's been a bit erratic. At their best, they'll beat UCLA, but on the road it looks a little tricky. If we had to do something, we'd probably take Arizona State here, but they haven't been all that reliable either, and I think UCLA is just a team to stay away from right now.
Bruce
right.
Marshall, sorry.
Oh, I thought you were pointing at me.
Well, I was ready. I want about Belmont and Murray State.
That's what I was going to go ahead, because that game's on ESPNU tonight at 6 o'clock Pacific, and I think Belmont-Murray State's an interesting one to handicap.
Yeah, Bruce, I just look at a team. I love to get situational spots like this where you get Murray State. They're at home. They're 15-2. They're 6-0 in the OVC, but they haven't played anybody, man, in like a month. Like I get that you only beat who's in front of you, but they haven't been tested in a month, and I think Belmont plus 5.5 makes a lot of sense tonight.
I think you might be right, and they're playing the bottom half of the Ohio Valley, which is not that good, and they kind of went through the motions. Talking about Murray State against Edwardsville last Saturday, they did not get that number after they had covered 3 or 4 in a row. But now they're stepping up. There's really a couple of tiers in the Ohio Valley. At the top are Belmont, Murray State, and Jacksonville State. And so Jacksonville State is coming up next Thursday for Murray State. Jay Morant is a tremendous player. He's an NBA talent. But I fully respect Rick Byrd and his team that kept us thinking this thing. We didn't want to go. We didn't want to go against Belmont here tonight. But we didn't want to go against Murray State. But Belmont is the reason for that, because they're dangerous. You might make a case for the over here a little bit more. Belmont, we know they like to get up and down the court. A lot of overs lately for them, and Murray State have been going over consistently. In fact, they've scored 82 or more in 8 straight games now. So with Morant, and they're also over, I think, 7 and 1 the last 8. So you could make a case for the over. They got it up there pretty high at 157. But I would not want to take Murray State tonight. I think you're correct. I think an over might be a better call there, or even Belmont.
All right, we'll get to some of the more under-the-radar games again here in this, Bruce. I wanted to see if you have thoughts on Michigan State. Spartans 8-0 in the Big Ten, laying 5 or 5.5 from the road at Iowa City tonight, 156.5 the total. Sam and I both like the home dog here. I know it's tough to bet against Izzo. What's your take on the Spartans Hawkeyes?
Same as you and Sam here. If we're going to do something here, I'm going to do Iowa. I was almost made that a gold sheet featured pick tonight. Pulled it off right at the end, but on my other picks, I have put Iowa up there. I think this is a very tricky spot for Michigan State, and like you guys, I'm not looking for spots to go against a team playing as well as Michigan State. Has not lost since November 27th, 8 weeks ago in overtime at Louisville. They've covered 8 straight games as well. But Iowa is hot, won and covered 5 in a row. This is the sort of spot where Fran McCaffrey he has got a lot of different scoring sources on his team. And Michigan State's been playing a little bit slower pace the last couple of weeks. Now, maybe it's trying to slow them down, but Iowa is certainly capable here at Carver Hawkeye of keeping this thing very, very close. And we've seen, some of these high-ranked teams, it's hard to keep going out laying points on the road against good teams. We saw couldn't do it this week. We saw Tennessee almost get beat last night.
Yep.
Michigan was at home the other night, and they almost lost. So this is tough times to be laying points against a capable foe. Iowa, I think, is probably worth a look here.
You're certainly paying a premium with Sparty. They were, they were 12. They had 12 wins, and now they've got. The record was they were 5-2. Now they're 17-2. So they've won 12 games in a row. The only issue, though, have you had a couple of these where you've lost because Fran McCaffrey got a tee? I've had a couple of games where Fran McCaffrey goes berserk, like they're down 4, and then all of a sudden they're down 8 because he gets a tech, and then he gets a second tech, and then you don't cover.
Well, let's
keep it together, Fran.
I just hope he doesn't have a reason to get that pissed off tonight to get a tech.
Keep it together.
All right, but we will be on the Hawkeyes and taking 5.5 there. Bruce, I'll just let you take it from here because I know you handicap every game on the board. A lot we have not talked about in the East and South parts of the country. What else do you see on tonight's betting board?
Let's jump back in the Ohio Valley here and some totals. And not Belmont Murray State, which is a featured game tonight, but there's some other games to look at there, and one is Jacksonville State. Now this one I'm not as much looking at the total. The totals will be over in the SoCon, but Jacksonville State has been really hot. Eastern Kentucky, very erratic, and Nick Mayo is like a one-man gang for Eastern Kentucky, but they don't play much defense at all. They just up and down the court to get Mayo the ball. They've lost 4 of their last 5. This is a short price for Jacksonville State, which has been red hot since early in the season. So I think the Gamecocks handle that 4 at East Kentucky tonight. Now, those totals I was actually thinking about were in the Southern Conference tonight. Wofford and Samford played a couple of very briskly paced games last year. They've got this total only at about 147.5. I don't think that's high enough, especially since these teams combined to score about 162 per game. Wofford really has one of the best guards in the SoCon there, Fletcher McGee, 18 points per game. They shoot almost 40% beyond the arc. Wofford is lethal, but so is Samford. So I think that total is just too small there. And the other one, really look at this one, Mercer and VMI. They've only got this thing around 151.5. Goodness knows why it's that low. VMI, go-go team, they're over 8-2 their last 10. They've cracked the 80-point barrier their last 2. They've got a Bombardier sophomore guard, Bubba Parham, from the Atlanta area, 29 points per game the last 2. He is hot. But then Mercer, they've got an on-fire guard, too. Ross Cummings, a junior, 27 points per game over his last 5. They are over 5 straight and 9 of 10, and they've only got this thing sitting about 151.5. These teams are routinely blowing over that total. So I'd look over in this one, with VMI and Mercer, and over in Wofford and Samford. Look at a little parlay there. Overs in the SoCon tonight.
All right, great analysis, Bruce Marshall, an encyclopedia of college hoops knowledge and everything else. Bruce, so what would you say your top plays are on the West Coast tonight?
Santa Barbara would be the top one for me,
okay.
and Santa Clara not far behind. And I'll throw in one total in the Big Sky tonight. Portland State and Eastern Washington. I might look over in that one, although Portland State hasn't been going over as consistently this year. Their pace is still very brisk. So is Eastern Washington. They played games beyond 150 last year. I think they'll clear 150 tonight at Viking Pavilion.
The Christmas spirit, Santa and Santa. He likes the 2 Santa schools. Bruce, I don't know if you're like this, like I am, but I always put together a list of mid-majors that I think could win a game in March. And right now I've got 4 teams. I've got Wofford, I've got Murray State, I've got Loyola, and I've got Stony Brook. Those are teams that I'm looking. If I can get them in the first round of the tournament, I'm going to play them with the points and on the money line. Wofford, Murray State, Stony Brook, and Loyola. What about you?
Did you put that list together before you watched Loyola in the second half last night at Missouri State?
That's a tough spot.
Okay.
It's a tough spot. Bruce, do you have a list of teams that maybe you're like looking ahead for to maybe take advantage of in the tourney?
Murray State is the one I would avoid at all costs just because of Morant. He's such a spark plug. But no matter who comes out, Jacksonville State might come out of the Ohio Valley, and I would avoid them too. So if it's one of those 2 out of the Ohio Valley, I would avoid them. Yes, Wofford I would want to avoid. This team beat South Carolina by 20 earlier in the year, so I definitely want to avoid them. I'll tell you another one. If Penn comes out of the Ivy, and Penn's already lost 2 to Princeton, but Penn has won no worse than a share of the Big 5 championship this year. That is huge news in Philadelphia. If they can beat St. Joe's coming up in the next couple of days, they will win the Big 5. And they have beaten Temple. They have beaten Villanova. So if they can slip in there, and they'll be like a 13 seed, they could cause some trouble. They've got some shooters. Brodeur, they're going to name a cheesesteak after him if he keeps shooting the way he has. So keep an eye on Penn if it comes out of the Ivy as well.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one too. Bruce, Gold Sheet, what do you have coming up for Super Bowl coverage?
Yeah, the whole schmeal, Matt. I'm going to put my Super Bowl rankings up there, all-time Super Bowl. Rank all, what we got, 52 of them thus far, and I'll rank them all, and we'll slot in this Rams-Patriots after 10 days from now, but I'll send that one over to you, and we're just kind of figuring out who we like in the game. We haven't decided yet. I kind of have an idea who I like, but I got to confer with the other guys and see what they think. But we're getting ready for the big Super Bowl issue. We'll be on online on Monday at goldsheet.com.
Check it out. Bruce Marshall, editor of the Gold Sheet again, goldsheet.com. Bruce, always appreciate your time, sir.
Have a good weekend, guys. Thank you.
We'll come back. The Bankroll Challenge right around the corner here on The Edge.
It's The Edge, broadcasting exclusively on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Listen to the show on SiriusXM Channel 204 or watch at VSiN.com.